this year, and that is non-compete agreements between employers and employees. And this is one that when this bill started, I don't think that lawmakers understood how many of these non-competes and how many sectors of the business community. There's a lot of support from businesses and leaders within the business community for a definition, clarity, and in some cases, the need to abandon post-employment or non-compete agreements. I think one of the biggest focuses for us as lawmakers here in the state of Utah is that the word non-compete and free market have a difficult time being discussed in the same sentence or in the same conversation. And so we have a bill, Bill 251, and Representative Schultz, the sponsor of that bill, will just give a quick overview of what that bill is doing. We've been collaborating with business leaders, people that hated this idea from the beginning, people that embrace and want to see non-competes banned, as other states do, California being probably the largest example in the country of non-competes being banned since 1870. And so we have a great discussion. This is what we do in the legislature. It's the arena. There's a battle of ideas going on. But there are some leaders that have looked at the long view of this state and are stepping forward to, not in a short-term way, but in a long-term way, look to protect Utah, its public, employers and employees alike. And so there's some big announcements that are going to be made here at this press conference. But before I'll leave that to them, let me just introduce Representative Mike Schultz. Lawmaker, he has been the one that's taken on this cause in this bill, and I'll let him discuss the bill just briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First off, I want to thank everybody that I have had discussions with over the last 5-6 weeks on this bill. I have heard from literally thousands of people between the emails and meetings that I've had on both sides of this issue. As we've learned, this is a very passionate debate where you have certain employers on one side that says we should just outright ban it, and then you have other employers on the other side that says that we should allow non-competes to work the way they have done so. And so our goal with HB 251 is to try to find some middle ground to bring those together. Our original bill was actually in the favor of banning outright non-compete agreements between employer versus employee only. And that's key. It would not touch the sale of a business or anything like that. It was just specifically between an employer and an employee. So let me get you with a collaboration that we've had with. We've got a working group that has involved many people, the Salt Lake Chamber, the GoEd, many prominent business leaders in our state. And what we have today is our third draft of HB 251. I would suspect there'll be some more changes to that with our draft from our meeting today. But real quick, I just want to hit on real quick what this bill does and does not do. If you have proprietary confidential information inside your business, you're still allowed to enter into a non-compete agreement with that employee. You have to. It defines the consideration beyond just having a job, and it also helps protect trade secrets and things. Non-solicitation agreements, you can still enter into non-solicitation agreements with your business employees that would protect your client list and so on and so forth. It also does not prohibit employment contracts in any way, shape, or form. And so I think that we've tried to strike a balance and try to take what the courts have already done and codify that and put it into law, and also address the concerns of the employees and those people that want to just go out and start their own business. And that's one of the original reasons I got involved with this, is people want to go out and start their own business and live the American dream, and if they're handcuffed to one of these non-compete agreements, it makes it hard to do that. And so with that, I'm going to turn some time over to some business leaders in this state, and I want to mention there's great business leaders on both sides of this aisle, on both sides of this issue, and I've had great collaboration with all of them. And so with that, I want to thank everybody that I have worked with everything. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Josh James.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to be here today, and this is a bill that we have a lot of interest in because we think that non-competes are they fight against innovation. And they're not entrepreneur friendly, they're not innovation friendly, and we think that non-competes are anti-American. And so we think that here in our state we should figure out how to get rid of non-competes. We've been wanting to do it for a while, and we've been looking for the right moment and the right opportunity. And unfortunately, with this bill as it is, we think it doesn't go far enough. We think that this bill actually makes it so that it's pretty much the protectionist, anti-competitive business owners in the state that don't really want to compete, that want to rely on their legacy, are supporting this bill and hate non-competes. And the reason why this bill, the reason why I have some problems with this bill is non-competes, you're still allowed to do them as the bill's written if the employee has proprietary confidential information. That's virtually every employee at our company. And it's also, when you look at non-competes, the way that non-competes actually are instituted, it's not a mutual agreement. It's you give an employee an offer for cash and an offer for stock. And after you give them that offer, they quit their job. They put it on Facebook. Everyone knows that they're coming to their new job. They've burned bridges, in essence, at their old employer. They come to work at their new employer, and on the first day of employment, you give them their 15 contracts that they have to sign, one of those being the non-compete. And the non-competes in the state of Utah, do you believe that truckers working in the state of Utah shouldn't be allowed to be able to go and work at another trucking company? Because that's what's being enforced. We think it's great with companies like Zions Bank. They don't have any non-competes. We think that we want to follow their example, and now at Domo, as of today, with our 800 employees, we're announcing that we're getting rid of 100% of our non-compete agreements. And the last point that I want to make is, as a business owner, I definitely think that in protecting your trade secrets, protecting your customer lists, extremely important. We've had people that competed with us that left and went to work with competitors, dozens and dozens of them over the years. There's been over 6,000 people that we've hired over the years at the various companies that we've started in the state of Utah. And when you look at those employees, I think we have a responsibility as the legislators, and we have a responsibility as the employers to protect the average citizen, to protect those that are getting a non-compete jammed down their throat the day that they start a job. And we've heard that big business and legacy businesses, that they say, we want to have more protectionism, and this isn't business friendly. Well, and they say that you shouldn't legislate something like this. You shouldn't add laws. And my answer to that would be there's a moral question here. And I guess if you don't want to have laws to protect women getting paid the same as men, I guess you could sit around and make that argument. We shouldn't have laws if you don't want to have big business. But you have to protect people. And you should be in protecting your employees. And we all should be able to compete. And I'm really surprised sometimes to hear that there's some employers out there that are just afraid to compete. And I think they just need to make better businesses. Thank you very much.
My name is Dave Elkington. I'm the CEO of InsideSales.com. Appreciate this. This is an enlightening event. It tells me that I definitely don't want to go into politics. I'm glad there's people who enjoy this. I'm not one of those people. That being said, this is an interesting topic. This is a chance to make Utah great. This is a chance to put Utah ahead and do something that we're not the last in the country to do it. We're the last in the world to do that. There's only 4 or 5 states that have done this. This is a chance to actually get out in front. And I think 100 years ago, it probably made sense. It was a fairly enclosed society. It was a fairly enclosed economy. We're not in that environment anymore. Right now, Utah is a very, very open environment. And not only that, we're doing business all over the world. We have 650 employees. And similarly, we're in a position where we have to take care of employees. It's not a place where you don't own people anymore. You have to help them be successful. You have to help them enjoy their jobs. You have to create an environment where you don't need legislation, and you don't need laws, and you don't need rules to try and keep people. What this law does is it basically is enabling and suggesting trust to the good characters. There's a lot of people who are going to treat you really well if you treat them well. If you come out and say, hey, we need non-competes, they're going to say, well, why do you need a non-compete? It suggests there's a lack of trust. You should trust your employees. If you trust them, I think you're going to find that they'll treat you back and they'll treat you well. If we do this, there's an opportunity to have Utah lead, and I think we're going to see an inflow of employees. Right now, there's not enough. The workforce isn't broad enough for companies like InsideSales.com, like Domo, like Qualtrics. Right now, one of the good news points in Utah is unemployment is really, really low. The flip side of that as an employer is trying to find talent is very, very challenging right now. So I think there's a perception that this is anti-business. I think this is very pro-business. One, it's going to bring a lot of talent in Utah, inevitably. This new legislation is going to help Utah be successful. Number two, it's going to force bigger companies, legacy companies, to innovate and treat employees better. And three, I think it's going to spur innovation because you're going to see a lot more openness and a lot more ability to come in and start new companies and do things like that. So similarly, we're going to remove, in our case, it's not a one-size-fits-all. In our case, we're going to remove the bulk of our non-competes for almost every employee. Now, there's an exception for us in that we feel that some of our executives, the most senior people in the company who are privy to conversations and that kind of contain a lot of the secret sauce of what we do, we're going to actually keep those in place. But these are people who are aware of the impact and the meaning of a non-compete, and they agreed to it and they understood when they signed their employment agreement. So we feel that if people are either in a senior executive or leadership position, or if they're exposed to I would say, the most unique or most proprietary things that aren't in the general public domain, that kind of information. But we actually feel it probably makes sense to keep some of these non-competes in place. But as a general rule, if a person is a support rep, if a person is a salesperson, if they're a baker, if they're a candlestick maker, they should be able to go and make a living anywhere they want and be able to pursue that dream, I think, of being happy and supporting their family. Thank you.
I'll be quick. My name's Ryan Smith. I'm from Provo, Utah. I've grown up here, and we're jumping on. We're super excited about this. I think we fall in line very much with the same as Dave and Josh. We're going to be removing the majority of our non-competes. But I think the reason why I'm so excited about this primarily is we need to remove the friction from doing business, right? 75% of the workforce will be millennials in the next 25 years or 20 years, actually by 2025. And in Utah, we have a lot of children, right? And so we need to make sure that that workforce stays in the state of Utah. And it's going to be extremely competitive, and we need to make sure that the friction that exists for innovation to happen gets removed entirely. I've got 4 children myself, and I want them working with, for, or being inspired by leaders that we don't know of yet. And that needs to happen here. It will happen somewhere. We want it in the state of Utah. Not only that, we do have a talent shortage. We went from 480 to 1,000 employees just this year. We have 6 offices. Utah is the only office in our company that has this problem with non-competes. The only. So we're already actually treating this in a different light. And the main reason, the reason why people want this is because they feel like there's an integrity issue within the workforce. Well, let's address the integrity issue. That is a valid concern, and I think all 3 of us believe that there's no minor lapse of integrity, but we need to hit that head on and educate and show that you don't need to handcuff folks to have high integrity. Our goal is that we have the highest integrity workforce in the world so that people in the state of Utah and outside the state of Utah want to come open up business here. It's going to benefit everyone. It's going to benefit our children. So that's why we're so passionate about this. And to everyone's credit, because there's a lot of debate here, we might be a little bit more downstream on this. When it comes to working with millennials and seeing that millennials it's not going to work. We're not going to be able to handcuff millennials. It's absolutely proven. And if you want research on that, we're happy to provide it. We've probably done more research than anyone in this topic. And we need to give millennials an option to choose where they want to work, choose how they want to work. And if there's an issue with the competes, there's a bigger problem in your business. So address that problem. So we're super excited about this. We think that Utah is going to continue to be great. I live here. I want to live here. Part of our passion is building Utah. We talk about it a lot. You've seen Silicon Slopes. This is another reason why we are continuing to be progressive in Utah. All the stats on why Utah's done good, it's because someone was progressive 5 and 10 years ago. This is no different. We can't stop being progressive now, because if we would have stopped being progressive 5 or 10 years ago, none of those stats would exist for business. So someone stood up then, and we're standing up now, and I think it's going to benefit everyone, and hopefully my kids. So that's why we're here.
My name is Brandon Tidwell. I'm with Signal Peak Ventures. We are an early stage venture capital firm here in Utah. And first off, I just want to express my appreciation to Representative Schultz and Speaker Hughes for taking this on. I think this is an important issue, a big issue. I'm grateful that they put it on the radar and that this debate is happening. And I applaud Josh and Ryan and Dave for their leadership on this issue and opting into this pledge. And I think it's important that you hear from somebody in the investment community here. We're invested in dozens of companies here. We invest millions of dollars in early stage technology companies. And from our perspective, we think this is a fantastic thing. And while we don't control these companies that we invest in, we can certainly encourage them to opt into this pledge as well. And we are going to do exactly that. And that's not because we don't care about intellectual property and proprietary information. We've built businesses, we've invested in businesses that depend on the protection of intellectual property. We just believe, and we believe this strongly, that using non-compete clauses to address that issue it's a very blunt instrument, a crude instrument, and it comes with great cost. And that cost is typically borne disproportionately by whom? By the employees who are looking out for their families, and generally by the ecosystem more broadly, because we believe, and there's a vast amount of research that shows this, that the mobility of talent and the diffusion of knowledge and expertise, the spillover into the broader ecosystem, is very positive and promotes more dynamism and more innovation within a community. And we're believers in that. Fundamentally, we believe people should work where they want to work. And we think it's our job as business leaders to do what we can to make them want to work for us instead of our competitors. And so, again, thank you to our leadership here, and thank you to the business leaders as well. We fully support this. Thanks.
So I think what you heard today is a big announcement. And it's an announcement from business leaders, innovators, people that are creating jobs, and is really changing the landscape of this state and how we're seeing across this country. I think the Silicon Slopes are real. We've talked about the Silicon Valley in California. We have the Silicon Slopes here, and it's because of the leadership of the people that you're seeing here today and the announcements they're making that makes the state of Utah such a unique place. It is for not just employers or employees, it is for the state and the public and its economy. So I want to thank them for their announcements and for their leadership
One
here.
more announcement too. John Pastana over at Observe Point, they made the announcement today also that they're getting rid of all non-competes for their 100 employees.
You see what's happening here? This is leadership. And when leaders discuss these issues with other leaders, that's where this momentum started. This bill was filed without knowing anyone but for constituents who are having a hard time, who had challenges that I would encourage you as reporters to go out and find those stories. There's some stories out there, and this is much more pervasive than we even knew. This bill started out as a little quiet bill. And as you can see from this press conference and the event that happened down in the Hall of Governors here at the Capitol, this is drawing much attention, and this is an issue that I think has been long overdue to be debated and to be worked on. And again, I think that we'll come up with the right solution. We'll do right by our constituents that we serve in the legislature, but we'll do right by Utahns. And again, thanks for being here, and thank you for your leadership on this issue. Thank you. 4 p.m. Senate Business and Labor in the Senate building. What room? 215. These committee hearings will have public comment. This is where these bills really get debated. If you have the time, you have the bandwidth, I'd encourage you to be there and lend your perspective in that committee. Thank you.